Well, good morning and welcome to our devotion time. The last few devotions we've been studying, looking at Noah and his life. And now we'll continue here in Genesis, but we'll turn to God's view of the earth during Noah's time. So we've looked at the character of Noah, and now we're going to look through the eyes of God as he looks at the character of humanity of the earth. And we find this in Genesis chapter 6, verses 11 through 12 here. And it says this: The earth was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. God saw the earth and saw that it was corrupt. All the flesh had been perverted its way on the earth. And so, again, look at Genesis 11, or 6, verse 11 through 12 to get God's view. And it said this is how God saw the earth. And what can be summed up in our passage here is that the state of the world, of humanity, after 10 generations we see of moving out of the Garden of Eden, out of the land that God had created for humanity. And God was rejected, and so we left. And actually God forced us to leave. And just 10 generations, the earth had come to this place where God describes the earth as it was corrupt, it was filled with violence, it was perverted in its way. And those are the three themes that God uses, or ideas that God sees. So through his eyes, after 10 generations removed from the Garden of Eden, humanity has come to this place where there is no redemption, that the corruption has run deep, that the creation is ruined in a sense. And so we know Noah's story. The flood comes, and this was the only way to save all of creation, in a sense, to remove this disease that just had no cure. I imagine we could look at it sort of like someone who loses a limb. There are times that a doctor comes to the patient and says, there's nothing we can do. We must remove this limb. Now, that's an aggressive, that's a horrible thing to look at. But in order to live, in order for you to have a functioning life, in order for the disease that's in this limb to not destroy you completely, it has to be removed. It has to be destroyed itself. And I think that's the kind of idea we're getting in this story. And so it's setting up that idea here, where God turns and we might like our world the way it is. We might be happy with the situations that are going on right now in our world. But God turned around in this 10th generation and looked at people who had become corrupt, filled with violence, and were perverted in its way. And I look at that and I wonder, and I think Jesus commented on that in the last days. The last days look even worse than that. Will the generations of Noah, Sodom and Gomorrah, be able to rise up and speak against this generation? I don't know, but we are going to look at God's ideas, and we'll take these words that God uses in describing the earth and discover what they mean as best we can, and see how that applies to our world and what we can do about it, how we can participate in God's plan. Well, you take care. I pray you'll have a great week and that you'll dwell in God's peace. Don't let the voices of ugly, of sin, control you. Remember that we serve a God of grace. Go in his love.